book by Donald Worster. He's like environmental science ecology guy from Kansas. He wrote this one essay about how the Lakota and like just the natives overall, in their cosmology and in their whole like way of life, they looked at all the other races of animals, whether it's salamanders, birds, or fish, as people. They even classified them as just another tribe of people. And then European settlers came and they just had this complete idea of looking at everything that's alive as a commodity. Like,
Exactly.
if it's a passenger pigeon, then we can can them and we can use them for fertilizer. If it's some insignificant animal, or like if it's for example, a predator like a wolf, then it's a competitor. So it was just like this different mindset. It seems like we're falling into the same folly again by not really considering what's in an area before you start bulldozing it. Because it seems to me like with the frogs breeding here, this is like a really valuable piece of habitat that has been lost forever now. I mean, because you can pave over anything pretty quickly, but to restore something back to its original conditions is really difficult. I mean, it takes years, and ecology is only like a 30-year-old science at this point, to where habitat restoration is even a feasible thing. So I think it's an injustice has been done to the city and to us, and especially you living here as a citizen, in this community, by losing this piece of land to what happened.
Well, my whole goal when we first started doing the gardening out here was to create a viable habitat for community and eventually hand it off to the community. Originally, I wanted Slug to take over the park, but of course they folded recently because of our economic deficit.
Right.
And now it's all being destroyed, and the crooks are getting away with it. Don't have their permits in place.
Yeah.
But also to comment on your observations about the Dakotas and other natives who recognize animals as people. It's kind of interesting if you look at the Mayan Aztec calendar, which is like has a huge cycle. I think it's like 1,100 years, but there's a lot of animal months or periods. You'll have like the jaguar snake year, or the bat this year, and interesting.
Yeah, I think we lost a lot in our cultural mythology by reducing animals to the level of commodities and just pests or competitors. I mean, if you listen to old native stories, they're so much richer because there are characters like the wise coyote or the owl, the beaver, the eagle. These animals which come with a whole set of different types of knowledge that we can't really access anymore because we don't look towards those animals to give us that knowledge, and we've become a much more impoverished culture, and maybe that's the reason why so many people are turning to things like just TV and video games and tuning out of reality because they don't feel in touch with reality because we've lost our signposts that helped us understand reality. All the birds that you see here are indicators of many things. All the animals you see here are indicators of things, and we're losing these indicators, and just as a result, we're becoming lost in the way we live.
Yeah, that's profoundly true. We don't know how to observe and listen to nature, and a lot of big lessons that could be learned there.
Shame about this place getting bulldozed. I mean, it seems so senseless.
Well, hopefully we turn this into a good thing. At least we're saving the plants, we're saving animals, and we're can hopefully spread these plants to other locations, to homes, to communities, to schools.
I think maybe there's got to be something. I mean, have you heard about what's going on with the 2 plots of land they're looking to develop? This was in the paper yesterday. They're up near Twin Peaks, 2 open areas that they're looking to convert into parking or some other such nonsense. And it's the same story could be repeated again. I think we have to just let this somehow be publicized to a way where maybe through public opinion we can make those other areas safe, preserve all the leftover open spaces in the city. I think it's necessary. There's so little of it left. I mean, something has to be done about that.
I totally agree. If not for the health of the ecosystem, at least for the enjoyment of people. And by the way, I think I read sometime a few years ago that San Francisco falls flat on its face in terms of appropriating open space and habitat. They're far below federal standards.
Well, I mean, we pride ourselves on being, green and ecologically conscious, but I'm not seeing it in our city policies at all. I think that we've got the same type of people running this city that we have running the country at this point. People who spit on environmental laws, look only to quick profits, don't look at long-term effects of overdevelopment and of destruction of wild habitat. I think that's really dangerous because the city's, on the verge of losing its very soul, I think, by bulldozing places like this. The reason why San Francisco is the city it is because we have Golden Gate Park, we have the Presidio, we have Corona Heights, we've got, Stern Grove, we've got all these green areas. And then, of course, there's all the little small green areas where, just being able to get away from traffic and see the bay here and see all the shorebirds and the water birds. And I mean, that stuff is really crucial to people's well-being, psychologically, spiritually, and physically. And, I mean, look, we're a couple hundred yards from Hunter's Point. There's radioactive waste everywhere. But it's showing us that nature can still exist right here, if you give it a chance. I mean, it's a lot more resilient than we give it credit for. And just because an area is small doesn't mean that it's just a plot of land we can get rid of. It's still vital. It's still, still producing energy of some sort that people can gain from. And
well, you'd think that some of these buffoons of development and our bureaucracy would realize the long-term sustainable benefits of bioremediation. I mean, it's been shown time and time again that there's just dozens and dozens, hundreds of ways to bioremediate toxins. A good example is in Chernobyl. Some of the water ponds that contain radioactive isotopes, scientists came up with a process by utilizing ordinary sunflowers planted on styrofoam rafts. And the sunflower has this unique characteristic or unique ability to extract radioactive isotopes from the water. And also we know that petroleum products can be bioremediated through bacteria. I'm not familiar with the entire science, but it's done commonly. Yeah. And even across the river here, there was toxic soil that was being bioremediated by using bacteria microbes.
And mushrooms too.
Oh, and mushrooms too. I wasn't aware of that. So.
Yeah, can't overlook the fungi kingdom there also.
So maybe we're just not as advanced as humans think we are.
Yeah, I think we've just lost so much knowledge in our way to striving for technology and material wealth and material comfort that we forgot about the real lessons that humans have probably been learning for thousands of years now. And just since the Industrial Revolution, really, a lot of that's been lost because of what we've done to it. Just about every free-running river in the whole world, I mean, at this point, it's either dammed or in some way utilized. And, the same thing happens to all the forests. Anything that's green is cut down. Anything near, any kind of wetland is converted because it's not, we aren't able to utilize it, in a direct way, so we just, destroy it. I mean, 90% of the wetlands around San Francisco Bay have been destroyed now, and it's really affecting water quality. The bay used to be a boon for shrimp and other things, for food, fish. That stuff's all gone now. I mean, people used to be able to live off of this body of water here quite well, being able to feed themselves, and at this point, that's no longer a viable option. And the same thing's happening with fisheries around the world. The salmon on the East Coast are virtually wiped out. The salmon on the West Coast are facing serious dangers. Salmon there used to be salmon runs in England in the 13 and 1400s. They used to catch as many salmon in England as the Native Americans did on the Columbia River. And people don't know that. Salmon used to be so cheap that they used to use it for fertilizer. It wasn't even worth taking to market because it was so plentiful. Salmon was like the food of the people in England up until about the 1500s, when people began to, organize commercial fisheries and just over-harvesting. So